Alright, what's going on, guys? This is Rob, and a lot of you guys have asked me to make a video about, or at least about the characters from Invincible. So we're going to start here with Alan the Alien, because he's one of my favorite characters. He's an amazing character, right? So, the origin of Alan the Alien in Invincible, or Invincible, origin of Alan the Alien, or Alan Alien origin. I'm not really sure what I'm going to title it yet. I'm going to have to figure it out, right? You got to hit that SEO, man, search engine optimization. I've already got comics dominated, now I got to find a way to dominate Invincible. So, here's the crazy thing about this. So, for any of you guys who follow me on Patreon, and we do the Invincible videos more in depth over there, you guys know that we talked about how Alan the Alien was going to have a super important role later on. One of the things that I want to specify here is it's going to have mild spoilers, but I'm going to avoid them as best I can. But the important thing is that with Alan the Alien, he's really the result of experimentation and genetic engineering, right? And so the way this worked out is that the Unopans were basically a race that was invaded by the Viltrumites at one point. And the result of this is that in a matter of days, the whole planet was conquered. Now, ultimately, the Unopans basically abandoned their planet, right? They just kind of took off. And one of the reasons for this is they did not want to become one of the races that had been conscripted by the Viltrumites. And that's one of the things the Viltrumites do. Because of the fact that there's so few of them, it doesn't really make any sense, despite their longevity and their capabilities, to throw all their eggs in one basket and to just constantly take the entirety of their forces and jump from world to world. And even with their newly formed plan, which is to send a singular Viltrumite to an individual world, like Omni-Man showing up to Earth, that even then, if Omni-Man's destroyed, then there's like one less Viltrumite, right? And so the result of this is that they would basically conquer worlds, and then they would force the various denizens of those worlds into effectively being an army, right? More or less like a garrison for that part of existence, right? That part of the galaxy or the universe or what have you. But for the Unopans themselves, the desire was to essentially create a force that was capable of fighting off the Viltrumites, either killing them or at the very least, preying on the idea that the Viltrumites realize there's so few of their races and basically just giving up, right? Just being like, it's not worth losing this many of our number to conquer this world. We'll just chalk it up to a lost cause, or we'll come back with a bigger army later on, or something along those lines. And so in order to achieve that, the Unopans basically started delving into genetic manipulation, and it was immediately approved, right? As soon as the idea was put forward, it was like, let's start genetically engineering our children so they can essentially be as powerful as the various Viltrumites. The problem with this is that every single instance of there being some kind of an unborn fetus being experimented on, when the fetus was born, it was born with either physical deformations or with mental handicaps. The only exception to that is Alan. And so as soon as he was born, he was immediately experimented on, right? They were just trying to figure out exactly what it is about him that makes him work, how in the world he's this strong, that kind of a thing, to see whether or not their experiment actually paid off the way that it wanted to. And given every single instance of examination, it did. It worked like it was supposed to. And so ultimately, they actually sent him out and had him face off against all these various threats that existed out there, and time again, he proved to be successful. There was no threat out there that he could not overcome until he came across the Viltrumites. And ultimately, they thrashed him, right? They absolutely trashed him. And so the result of this is that recovering from his injuries, the entire experiment was considered to be a failure, right? They said, okay, we've managed to create a super powerful being out there, but he can't really achieve the goal that we created him for, right? They were, Alan the Alien exists to defeat the Viltrumites. He couldn't do it. The experiment's a failure. And so what they ended up doing instead is they basically tasked him with a kind of fake role, which is champion evaluation officer. And essentially, he would travel around the entirety of the cosmos and find individuals out there that were capable of overpowering him, but were inherently good and would stand against the Viltrumites. And so if he was able to find one of those people, then the argument was he would basically join the Coalition of Worlds, which stands against the Viltrumites, and that they would basically be recruited to their cause. This ultimately led him to kind of being duped into believing that he was going to a planet that was basically called Urath. In reality, it was Earth, right? He was just told it was a different name. He basically got there, and then his story unfolds exactly the way that you're familiar with in the show. There's one big caveat to his character yet that has not been explored, and it's the single most important thing when it comes to Alan the Alien. The reality is that his experiment was not a failure. Instead, with Alan the Alien, because of the nature of the experimentation and his physiology and so on, he's basically like a Saiyan in the Invincible universe. For those of you guys who follow Dragon Ball Z, what that means is that every time he fights an opponent, when he recovers, he gets stronger. And so it's one of these things when he fought Nolan on multiple occasions and got absolutely crushed, or any other Viltrumites that were out there, he recovered and became stronger after that particular conflict. And so he wasn't inherently born stronger than Viltrumites, but he's certainly getting there. And there actually will come a point where he is there and then actually exceeds it, right? Like Alan the Alien becomes super powerful in Invincible. It's really cool. That's why I say he's one of these characters that just slides under the radar. And if you're not paying attention, like he'll just he comes out of nowhere. It's just like this ridiculously OP guy. One of the crazy things though, and this is something that I'm not going to spoil here, but I will say the guy who basically approved the entire operation, the leader of the Coalition of Worlds, is a guy named Thaddeus that has an amazing story, right? His backstory is ridiculously cool, and really has a heavy hand in the involvement of Freddie Mercury, right? The leader of the Viltrumite Empire. Technically his name's Thrag, but you guys have all started calling him Freddie Mercury, so that's what we're gonna go ahead and call him from right now. Like literally in all the videos, we're just gonna call him Freddie Mercury. But with that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, and I will catch you all later. Peace.